This is CityCast Seattle. I'm Jane C. Hu, and here's what Seattle's talking about. 4 companies are inquiring about putting big data centers in Seattle. We'll tell you what we know so far and bring you some good news for your Tuesday. But first, we're talking all things transit with Henry Bendon, King of the Numtots, Public Information Officer for Sound Transit. Henry, are you still riding the high of the Cross Lake Connection opening?
Yeah, I just keep going back and forth to watch people take videos out the window on their phones, because every time I see people get excited about the train, I get excited about the train. So it hasn't gotten old.
We also have Hannah Krieg, Seattle's reporter without a boss, founder of The Burner. Hannah, congrats on 1 year of The Burner.
Oh my God, thank you. I think you both were maybe at my party, if that's public information.
Allegedly.
Unverified. Have you made your way to the east side on the Cross Lake Connection, Hannah?
I was, fortunate enough to go to the media preview and ride alongside Henry, but I haven't been back. I guess I don't have that much reason to go to Bellevue. I'll find an excuse soon.
Partied out Bellevue or Redmond, I guess.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, so a hard-hitting question to start with, Henry. I was looking at photos from the official opening day what is the official count, actually, on the number of people who showed up?
The official count changed. You guys are going to get the first revised official count, which went from 205 up to 214,000 people on the first day of ridership, which puts us even closer to our all-time 225-ish record from Seahawks Super Bowl Parade Day, which is incredibly exciting. It was really cool to see, we broke 200,000 people just to celebrate a new train. There was a lot of other things going on that day. Actually, there was a Mariners game. There was no Kings. So it was a big ridership driver day to begin with. But 215,000 people on new train day people were excited.
This is a city of nerds. But yes, I was looking at photos from this, and I was looking at the official ribbon cutting. Where do you all get those weird novelty scissors? They're like the weirdly oversized scissors that cut the ribbon.
Okay, so I don't know, but this is a good opportunity to say that our events team are, I think, wizards. I think they're actual magic. Between the hundreds of different businesses that they coordinated with to be out there and the 6 different stations that had their own parties. So I don't know where we get the scissors. I do know that the people that set up the events are fantastic. And I want to shout out Tom and Lauren and Kelsey and the rest of our team that did that, because they did an amazing job.
Okay, well, maybe those wizards at some point can tell us where they got the giant novelty scissors and where those novelty scissors sit currently, because it seems like we're going to have maybe some use for them, but not immediately. So I know that the Sound Transit Expansion Board met last week to discuss next steps for ST3. The last time they met, it was revealed that there might be some cuts and adjustments on the horizon. We've talked a bit about that on the podcast already, but bring us up to speed with all of that, Henry. What are the options on the table currently?
So 2 things I want to say. One, we do have another station that's going to open this year, Pinehurst Station in North Seattle.
Right.
In the
Keep
Hollow
those
Lake
scissors
neighborhood.
out.
Yeah. And the other thing to remember is that we have multiple ST3 projects in active construction. And to this, I mean Stride. But the real question you're asking is about something that we're calling the Enterprise Initiative. So Sound Transit as an agency is facing really high costs due to historic inflation, and coming out of COVID, things are not modeling the way they were in 2016. We live in, I think it's safe to say, just a fundamentally different world in terms of tariffs and the rising cost of construction and inflation and a bunch of other things. And basically, our long-term capital costs and our long-term operating costs, because we want to be thorough in this analysis, are not matching up with our projected revenues. Now, we are not planning on cutting any project. The question is, when and how do we deliver an affordable financial plan where we can build the projects that we have now? But in the past, with ST2 projects like the bridge that we just opened, we have seen the agency weather the Great Recession and turn back around and phase projects and deliver them. We are committed to getting everything to 30% design, which is a pretty key milestone in being able to turn around and go back when money is available to begin construction. And I talked about ST3 projects. Sound Transit 3 is the 2016 ballot initiative that laid out very aggressive, comprehensive regional expansion to our light rail network, the new Stride Bus Rapid Transit network, which will have 3 lines, 2 on 405 and 1 on 522, and improvements to Sounder. One of those projects, the Downtown Redmond Link extension, is open and opened last year. In fact, because we were able to, with ST2 money, get it to a design level and then turn back around at ST3 and build it. So
wait, okay. So for folks who aren't familiar with the process, there's design. So run us through the different stages.
The process of building a capital project, especially here in the United States, is very complicated. So here in Washington, especially, when we come to the voters, Sound Transit comes to the voters at a very early stage in the process. Because these things cost money to design, before you can spend that money, we have to ask the voters. So, for example, the first thing you do is identify at a very preliminary level, I want to build a train to Ballard, and I think it should stop probably in downtown Seattle and maybe near the stadiums, and then it should get to Ballard. And then you run through a variety of design and engagement and engineering processes that help you refine where that route is going to go. And then you talk to the community, and then you talk to a whole bunch of engineers, you talk to the scientists, you look at your environmental impacts, and you work through a process that also involves political stakeholders weighing in and business owners takeover, and that over time allows you to refine your project and identify the route that you're going to do. And then you start working on the station designs. And then once you've got a route and locations, then you can go back through and say, okay, we know exactly where we're going. So the engineering work we were doing where it was like, well, we know we're going to have trains and tracks in a tunnel can now be, I'm going to have a tunnel that's 62 feet under 4th Avenue and exactly like the 0.7 grade going down here. And that keeps going and going. As you get further along in the process, you meet these various design metric thresholds. And throughout this, we're working with our state partners and critically our federal partners for meeting environmental clearance and design and engineering levels with the federal government that basically unlocks stages of funding and loans and the notice to proceed. The Ballard and West Seattle are at different stages in the process, for example, because West Seattle is far enough along that we were able to go to the federal government and say, hey, we've done this much work to say we can go here, and we think we've done all of the environmental work. We got our final environmental impact statement, and that went to the federal government, and they said, yes, looks great, and they issued a record of decision saying we can go ahead and go back to engineering work on that. Ballard, we are still waiting and working through the environmental clearance process, so it's a little bit further behind. But as the process goes on, the designs get more refined, and the project goes from a sketch to a painting to a picture to a really highly technical blueprint that then becomes
That's a good analogy. Yeah. Wait, so how far along is the Ballard thing? I know that, please, Henry, are we going to get a Ballard station? So many people are asking about this right now and organizing to try and keep the Ballard station in the mix. I know there's been some concerns that because some of those early plans presented didn't include that Ballard station, people are really rallying around trying to make sure that that's a priority for ST3.
So I would say two things. One is that Sound Transit staff and the board who makes these decisions, our elected leaders, are working very closely to deliver an affordable financial plan. The other thing I would point to is Hannah's reporting from the preview ride when she spoke with CEO Dal Constantine, who reaffirmed our commitment to go to Ballard, to go to Tacoma, to go to Everett, to build and deliver the benefits of the Sound Transit 3 package. We want to build all of these trains. These are projects that mean a lot and that we are trusted to deliver. And so we are working through this process to figure out how that can happen.
Can I ask a question? What's the likelihood that like Sound Transit will have to go back to the voters and ask for more money to complete that Ballard extension?
That is a question that is above my pay grade.
And wait, so what happened at this most recent meeting? I feel like the previous meeting was really well publicized. Like people were talking a lot about what happened in that meeting and the potential options that were talked about for trying to make sure that things stayed within budget for the next phase of things. But yeah, what did people discuss at this most recent meeting?
So I think we're talking about two different meetings. There's the System Expansion Committee meeting, which met last week, just generally for updates. But the one where the very controversial different options came out, and I put options in air quotes for an important reason, was our board retreat in Tacoma. And at the board retreat in Tacoma, the board a lot of senior staff and the highly technical staff and a bunch of stakeholders and just general members of the public showed up to advocate for their projects. But we sat down to have long conversations about potential trade-offs. The 3 scenarios that were developed for that were illustrative. They were designed to show the board, if you make this selection and this selection, you could end up with this. I thought Ryan Packard did a great job of breaking it down when they were on your program last week, of saying this is a question of give and take in allocating resources across the region, given that there is high demand for light rail. I love what Kirk at TCC says, where we're more popular than the Sonics in terms of like how much people want light rail. And we know that, and our board knows that, and they are working really hard. The team that works on Enterprise is working really hard. All of us are working really hard. I guess I want to assure your listeners that like we take very seriously the scenario that we're in, where the finances don't quite match what was projected in the Obama administration. Now we're looking at something different. Part of the Enterprise Initiative is we are required by law to have an affordable financial plan. We are a delegated regional taxing authority. We're not allowed to just assume that money is going to appear, and we shouldn't. We're going to make a responsible, affordable plan. But the financial reality of today is not necessarily that of 10 years from now or anything else. These are long-term capital projects.
Hannah, did that answer your question?
No. But that's okay.
Henry, can we press you on that a little more?
Do
we think there's a chance that Sound Transit will come back to voters?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's really not my department.
That is fair. Okay. Let us take a little break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about data centers. Hey, Liam, have you ever been to the Washington State Spring Fair?
Hey, Jane, I haven't, but I'm looking at the website and it looks pretty fun.
Are your kids into seeing animals?
Oh my God. The constant debate in this house is what's the best animal.
What about carnival games?
Yeah, I think they could be convinced.
What about festival rides?
Oh, yeah, I want to do that.
And, okay, my favorite, eating too much funnel cake.
Oh, I'm already doing that.
I'm also super excited that they're doing a monster truck rally and a demo derby.
Wow, that's extremely you.
So if you want to pop down to Puyallup the weekend of April 10th to 12th or 17th to 19th, you can get your tickets at www.thefair.com. And kids under 5 are always free, so you can bring the whole family. When I first moved to Seattle, Town Hall was my lifeline to the city. I went to book talks, panels with interesting local thinkers, and even a concert. If you're looking for something fun to do or to learn something new, you'll find something going on nearly every night of the week with events spanning civics, science, and arts and culture. Town Hall is a nonprofit with a mission to amplify ideas, foster civil discourse, and connect people through events. And what I love most about Town Hall is that their events are produced by and for the community. Tickets to most events are offered on a sliding scale with free tickets for people under 22. And if you haven't been, they're located in a vibrant historic building on First Hill. And on Saturday, April 18th, author Maria Semple discusses her new novel with Jeopardy champ and host Ken Jennings. You can get tickets and view the full calendar of events at townhallseattle.org. The Seattle Times reports that there have been inquiries about building new data centers in Seattle. 4 companies are looking into building 5 data centers with a combined maximum demand of around 369 megawatts, roughly a third of what the city uses on an average day, according to the Times. We live in a city that leads the nation and world in many ways, and big tech is having these around inevitable? Like, we've seen a lot of other areas of the US getting these big data centers, but so far it seems like we have mostly avoided them, at least here in Seattle proper.
This is not inevitable. No, there's no reason that we need to have this. There's no reason that the state legislature couldn't have stepped in and tightly regulated data centers or all out banned them. There's no reason why the city council couldn't try to do some citywide regulations as well. Like, this isn't the weather.
Henry, does Sound Transit rely on any big data centers?
I don't believe so. The agency we work with City Light a lot. They are a utility power provider on the one line. We use Puget Sound Energy on the two line. And I guess tangential to this, we're really proud of the fact that our energy mix is incredibly clean and relies on almost entirely renewable and green power, which makes your light rail commute super, super environmentally friendly.
Well, right now with gas prices, I am definitely looking for any way to get around besides a car. But yeah, on the data center thing, did you already know that we have some data centers right here downtown? We have something like 30 data centers, but none are as big as any of the ones that could be proposed here. I was looking at the downtown ones, and many don't disclose exactly how big they are, but I saw one that was operating at around like 3 megawatts, another that was operating around 7. So if we're looking at 5 operating at 369 megawatts, it's like this is definitely going to be a much bigger project than anything we've seen.
Yeah, you said it equals about a third of the city's current energy use. That's ridiculous. I mean, who foots the bill for that?
Well, one interesting detail is that the Seattle Times reports that Seattle City Light is trying to rewrite its contract terms to require the centers to find their own power generation and to pay for infrastructure upgrades so that we, the customers, don't see rate increases, which a lot of people living in areas that have a lot of data centers in them have seen rate increases as a result of their new neighbors, the big data centers moving in. You might remember that we had proposed a data center bill in this year's legislature. So House Bill 2515 would have required companies to pay for grid upgrades, and also other things like sharing information about emissions to try and minimize energy use when the grid was strained, potentially even to pay a fee based on its energy usage. But an amendment actually took that part out before it officially died in the legislature. But I am curious whether these inquiries came before or after this bill officially died. Did folks make these inquiries because it seemed like this might be a more hospitable place for companies to move in, or was this just already in the works? I don't know anything about the timeline.
Yeah, I think A More Perfect Union has had some reporting on the different state legislatures. So many states have moved to like tightly regulate these data centers, and Washington is now, because we didn't pass our regulations, lagging behind. And so we are going to, I don't know, of course, like when these inquiries came in either, but we are going to start looking more attractive to a lot of these companies who want to have data centers.
Yeah. I'm curious also more broadly, what have you all heard about data centers in other places? Because I feel like it's been a mixed bag depending on who you're hearing from.
There seems to be some concerns about environmental issues. There seems to be concerns about like rate hikes. And yeah, and I know that Washington, I think we got rid of these incentives. We used to have data center like tax breaks and stuff. And like this was something we really wanted for a while. And I think like the tide has definitely changed, seeing like how it's impacted other communities and environmentally and like energy wise.
I can say a little bit about how it's gone in a few other places. So in Vineland, New Jersey, there have been these videos going viral of someone filming outside of their house a constant mechanical humming sound. They live next to a data center. I will say, to be fair, this data center is quite large. This is doing 300 megawatts, which is about the size of all 5 that are currently being inquired about here in Seattle combined. So, I mean, it doesn't seem like any of those is necessarily going to be quite that big, but the sound pollution and living with that constant low-grade noise is something that people have raised concerns about. I know people have also talked about those utility costs. Again, it seems like if Seattle City Light, if these projects do proceed and Seattle City Light successfully tries to rewrite those contract terms, then perhaps customers will not necessarily see increased costs, but unclear how that's going to proceed. We still don't know much about that. And then I feel like the one thing that you always hear in relation to data centers is water use. And in Northern Virginia, where there are 300 data centers, they used 2 billion gallons in 2023, which represents a 63% increase from 2019. So the TLDR, yeah, we're probably going to see a good amount of water use bringing in any new data centers. And this is a weird time to be thinking about that also, given that we are officially in a drought here in Washington for the 4th year, I believe. I'm really curious to see how the people of Seattle will react to this news. What are our choices here?
Yeah, it's definitely something I've been seeing inquiries from like my readers and my viewers is like, who's organizing against this? Who's, what's the move? When's the rally? When's the meeting we have to go to? And it just doesn't seem like really clear who's going to take the lead on this issue and like what the levers of power are and what the demands will be. Will people be trying to, all out stop these projects? Will people be trying to get, make sure that Seattle City Light is rewriting their rules to make sure that we don't see increased rates? Yeah, I think it's in flux right now.
Yeah, I appreciate the Seattle Times reporting on this in its early stages. It seems like something that we will be continuing to talk about if these proposals move forward. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, let's talk about some good news. If you're in Washington and you haven't tried King Harvest hummus yet, you're missing out on a locally made favorite. Since 1977, King Harvest Hummus has been making their small batch, fresh hummus in Portland, Oregon. It's not like an average hummus. It's a thicker texture combined with bold flavors, and it creates raving fans after tasting it. Not surprising, since it's made local and fresh on the shelf. Some of our favorite flavors are roasted red pepper, jalapeno, sun-dried tomato, and of course, the classic. You can eat this healthy dip with chips, veggies, or add it to a sandwich or wrap. Or maybe you just want to eat it with a spoon. Most people buy more than one because once it's open, this healthy dip disappears fast. You've got to try it to love it. Don't miss out on expanding your snack experience with this locally made fresh dip. King Harvest Hummus. Simple, better, one dip at a time. You can find King Harvest in the refrigerated section at your local grocery store. If you're enjoying the podcast, be sure to follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen so you never miss an episode. Also, leave us a little review. It's really helpful. And tell your friends about us. You can also get more local news and events delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter. Just go to seattle.citycast.fm. And you can find us on Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok at CityCast Seattle, and you can watch full episodes of this show on YouTube. It's Tuesday, which means it is time again for Good News Day Tuesday. Henry, is there any good news you can bring us?
There's so much good news, but I gotta stay on topic, which is the recently opened Crosslake Connection and what it means for large civic events in our city. I want to tell you about my experience taking my mom to the Mariners on Friday. We went to the game. We had an amazing time, as one does when the Mariners beat the Astros and we get to watch those cheaters lose. And then, when it was time to go home, we walked to International District Station or headed north towards Capitol Hill. And if you've left a baseball game, a football game, a soccer game, since the one line opened, you know that your job is to throw yourself into the train and hope that you can stick because they are so full. With the two line pulling in, and it doesn't stop at Stadium, we were able to get a seat and sit back and relax and have a totally enjoyable ride back up to where we caught a bus that was 2 minutes away from the station when we arrived there. Perfect, seamless transit transfer, which is always a good thing. But more generally, we're seeing in real time how great this expansion of public transit is for people, not just those that commute on transit every day, just folks going about their lives, expanding their transit options. And I really loved that because I had a great time at the baseball game with my mom, but also because there were thousands of other people that were taking these trains in both directions to go to the game. So people are using them. That's my good news.
Hannah, do you have any good news to bring us?
I have some good news. I could do some old good news as everyone continues to express their disappointment with Katie Wilson in her surveillance decisions. There is some good news that seems like she's still trying to hold to her campaign promises to deliver progressive revenue. That was something she said in her town hall a couple weeks ago, and it's like resurfaced in some like right-wing story. And when the right wing is criticizing Katie Wilson, it's usually something okay. I know she spoke at the Downtown Seattle Association gala or whatever and said that, it's probably not great that the taxes are so different between Seattle and Bellevue to have different incentives so close to each other. But then when she was brought that quote at her town hall, she said that she's still committed to progressive revenue and she's still committed to taxing the rich, and her office is working on proposals. I asked them last week about what kind of proposals they're working on, and they didn't get back to me. So maybe we'll see it soon.
Maybe we'll see more soon. All right, I got 2 pieces of good news here. 1, the Trump administration has approved funding for Washington's flooding from December. So back in February, Governor Bob Ferguson asked the federal government for up to $173 million to deal with all the damage to the roads, other infrastructure, and levees. Ferguson said, according to the Washington State Standard, that it was the largest dollar amount of public infrastructure damage in Washington State in more than 4 decades. So we needed that money, and we had not heard back from the federal government until now, which is great because that will go towards rebuilding. And then part 2 of this good news is if you were affected by those storms, you get a filing extension for your taxes this year. You don't have to file until May 1st. Tax day is technically tomorrow. If you were affected by those storms, you get a little bit more time to file your taxes. You could also just file an extension even if you weren't affected by those storms, just so you know. I feel like it's kind of one of those like adulting cheat codes that like people forget they can do that if they were otherwise kind of irresponsible and didn't get around to doing their taxes on time. So could be a good time to consider doing that. All right, before I let you all go, I wanted to ask Henry something, which could be considered good news depending on how you look at it. So Henry, recently you posted a little video on the internet, which people really shot the messenger about.
Oh no.
So apparently wrong side street parking in Seattle is not legal. But Henry, you discovered that actually that's not legal, correct?
Jane, thank you for giving me this platform to publicly apologize. This was not a sound transit related thing. In my spare time, I do my Henry on Board videos where I talk about transportation and I go around and learn new things. And my friend Reba and I were arguing a couple of weeks ago because I'd parked the wrong way. This is the true news, is that Henry on Board does have a car.
Rule breaker.
Yeah, well, okay, I thought it was legal, right? No, that's a $69 ticket if they get you. It turns out that is against both state and city regulations. Now, the discussion in my comments ranged from, it appears maybe we don't enforce this rule on streets with no striped center line, which I will say there was nothing in the code to say that made it legal. There's nothing at all. I think that's just a choice in enforcement.
I just thought that was a fun fact because, I mean, like from where I sit right now, I could see no fewer than 5 cars parked the wrong way. I do think that it's probably not worth the time or effort for the city to enforce that on any regular basis. But interesting to know that it's not officially in the rules.
I will advocate for one thing on this, which is that there is this general understanding when we're driving our cars that, I can get away with breaking this rule because it will be fine. When you wrong side park, you are seriously limiting your visibility of the road. And as cars get larger and larger, we have to be very careful. And this is just my plea as an individual to folks, especially those driving your big car with the big front hood, that you're keeping an eye for kids. We have a lot of little kids in the city. It's one of the things I love about Seattle is it's a family town. Like, people live here. And if you're in one of those neighborhood streets where wrong side parking is more likely, there is a chance that you're pulling out with limited visibility and an enormous car and small people. Keep your eye out for the youth. They are our future.
I felt mixed about that video. I'll say I hate a narc, so I'll be annoyed about. But I hate a driver. And then now that I'm hearing that you're saying this as a driver, I'm like, it's even more confusing for me. So I'm like,
There was no license plate and no cross streets. Nobody ever knew where that car was.
But in general, okay, some things take off on social media, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh, maybe we need to, I don't know, maybe Katie Wilson sees that and says, maybe this is what we need to start enforcing.
no.
You have to be responsible with your platform. Because you never know who's going to hear that.
Oh boy.
All right. I am loving this. For context for our listeners, in Henry's video, Henry also talked about how it is like mandated here in Washington to have a front license plate as well as a back license plate. There was a car that did not have a front license plate. So some folks were upset that Henry had maybe included this car. And I guess that's probably part of the point, right? Like that's why we want cars to have a front license plate so they are more identifiable from the front.
I don't know if you as an individual person can just Google a license plate anyway.
No, I don't
and figure
think
out
so.
who it is. I think that's a little like
Yeah.
ridiculous to think that like I didn't mean you're a narc in that way. I just meant this is general narkiness.
I'm simply a rule follower.
Yeah.
There we go. So good news for rule followers and good news for us for having this very spirited discussion around it. Henry Bendon, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And Hannah Krieg, thank you as always for being here.
Always a pleasure.
And Jane, quickly before we wrap, I did want to plug to your audience and members of the general public as a whole. Sound Transit has an open survey where you can weigh in on our long-term conversations about financial planning on the Enterprise Initiative. If you go to the Sound Transit website and visit our platform blog and look for Take the Enterprise Initiative survey, or I'm going to make sure to send you guys the survey so we can put it in the show notes. We desperately want to hear from you, the public. This is how all of our projects are guided. We talked earlier about how capital projects have public involvement at every step of the process. That's true with financial planning too. We are the government. We want to hear from you. Your voice is centered in how we do our planning. So please take that survey.
Yeah. And I actually did take that survey already, and I can attest. It took me less than 5 minutes. Very easy. Good way to make your voices heard. So we'll include that in the show notes as well. That's all for today here at CityCast Seattle. Listeners, we want to hear from you too. I am always game to field your good news, even if it's like personal good news. I don't know. I enjoy hearing about it. So please do keep us posted. If you know anything about these potential data centers coming in, also, please get in touch. You can send an email to seattle@citycast.fm. You can also text us or leave us a voicemail on the CityCast hotline at 206-880-3931. Again, putting in a plea for voicemails because those are my favorite things. To hear your voice is just so nice. And we've gotten a few lately. I think maybe because I've been just like pleading with you all to leave them. So please continue doing that. We really, really love it. Until next time, see you, Seattle.